All right, I'm going to start calling names, and what I would like you to do is stage us over here with Keenan, and then he's going to send you over here to finish your comments. The timekeeper is right here, so you'll see the time flash up, so you'll know when your 2 minutes are going away. All right, Kevin Moran. And what I would like to say is I made a very great effort to only pull the card from the previous session speaker, so if you do not hear your name and you did fill out, we'll try to get to you and I'll pull the card, but I made a very good effort to make sure that the folks here who, I won't stand there, who did fill out cards in this session were included in the session. So I call the first speaker, Kevin Moran. Let me call the next one, Joyce Bussell, Dennis Anderson, Ruby Borowski. I'm going back to all the folks that didn't seem like they responded, so they were in the second group. These are the speakers from the...
But Ruby did respond.
Did you? Well, I missed that. I'm sorry. Bill Butcher. David Lisco. Okay, well I did so because I wasn't sure who they were, and I want to make sure that I didn't get somebody in this session. I did call someone who's new, so I'm in the right deck. Stop giving me a hard time. I'm trying to make sure we all get a chance. Scott Fitzpatrick. Amy Burney. David Houghton. Rich Moat. Art DeMario. Gary Cartwright. You might be said. Ivan Clement. Pat Anderson. Ken Fritz. Charles Carr. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get the first speaker, and then after he goes up, I'll call a few more names. First speaker? Thank you. Here you go.
So this week I had 36 students, girls, that she got a good girl in the morning, she didn't find anything. The boy did stuff for her hard in the morning, he was kissing me. Later that evening, the girl went out, she got to get her first bath. She jumped up and down, and she gave a big hug. That's on out, and she was so right. That's a big hug. She got too evil. She got a fear. I already gave her that. Now, I trapped swift. I don't do it no more. Got clean smart. And her stopped at the gate. Swift like there's not one, a hawk, and there's nothing. They want every piece of game out. I just hunted walk the water. But they don't even keep an eye on what they shot for. That's the size of the point, there's only have to hunt it. That's 150 drives around on a four-wheel or bus. Stop, put a couple cars on, I had max and have a hospital. And people stop by and say, well, you can do what I do. I put smoke for a back of my truck. What's going on here? We drive around 6,000, talking maybe 100 feet. And it's good all the time. Maybe somebody comes to your camp, they have to visit, they have to get. That's kind of like I said. Please. You keep telling us, don't want it, whatever, well, it's up. Say, don't want it, let it go.
Either Nutter or Neuter, N-U-V or T-E-R, Bill Dover, Fred Davis, Tom McWaters, Todd Holman, Bishop Wright, Mark Gincioli. If your name is even close to that, I would appreciate it. All right, next speaker.
Thank you. Can everybody back there hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, first off, I'd like to say that if anybody out here is buying into this and what they're telling you, please meet me in the lobby after the meeting. I've got some good real estate down in the Florida Everglades, and I'll give you a bargain.
say that I am definitely and absolutely against this proposal. The reason being, these people have already proved beyond any shadow of a doubt that they cannot be trusted.
Ask an Indian. Amen.
Well, quit interrupting him.
I heard somebody ask a question a while ago about will we be able to vote on this? I don't think they made it clear. The answer is no. There's one person that will be able to have a final say-so on this. His name is Ken Salazar. He has his own private dictatorship up in Washington.
Amen.
Don't care about what we say.
Amen.
Now, they talked a lot about water preserve, protecting quality water, headwaters. They're going to clean it up. Well, the problem is the contamination going into Lake Okeechobee comes from Orlando. It don't come from the farms. Anybody think about it, look at it? Where does it come from? Pollution coming from the streets and canals and businesses up in Orlando, washing down through the Kissimmee Valley, all the way into Lake Okeechobee and eventually down into South Florida. Any number of wildlife management areas is not going to change that fact, and it's not going to clean up the water. Thank you. Looks like we're running out of time, but I will say this. There's a letter passed around that gives a little bit of credibility about what they're saying. They're addressed from U.S. Congress of the United States to Ken Salazar. It's where he did a little end run around while they were out of office. Are you going to read it?
That's right, got it.
Okay.
I want them to answer to it.
All right. This is going to say a lot about their credibility. Well, thank you for your time. I would very much like to see more opportunity for people to give their opinions. I know there's more people here than you've counted on. What's going to happen tomorrow night? What are you going to do over there?
I'm working on it. It'll be tomorrow morning probably, but thank you for your comments. Next speaker.
Good evening. My name is David Houghton. I'm with the National Wildlife Refuge Association, and we're in support of this proposal. I also represent nearly 1,000 Floridians as friends of National Wildlife Refuges, and I speak in support for 3 reasons. 1, ranches are good for wildlife. Any program that helps ranches will help wildlife in the state. 2, there will be a net increase in hunting and fishing opportunities. The properties that the Fish and Wildlife Service will acquire will likely go to development if they're not preserved. And 3rd, it's a partnership refuge. I believe strongly that Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission, the Natural Resource Conservation Service, the Department of Agriculture needs to play leadership roles in this proposal. I have 3 suggestions, though, for the Fish and Wildlife Service. 1, is they make their map more fine-tuned, that they do not include landowners that are not willing sellers. That includes the River Ranch. Take the River Ranch. Will not use condemnation to acquire any property. And 3rd, work very closely with the state agencies like the Fish and Wildlife Commission as co-managers of the National Wildlife Refuge. Thank you very much.
I'm Thomas Waters, president of the Florida FFPA, and we're not for this. And I think everybody needs to contact their congressman and the representative. Ken Todd Allman, Florida Sportsman Conservation Association. I know they said that they've got grazing, get some money for grazing and stuff like that. But according to a lot of the stuff I've read, they're not really for the cattlemen and to get cattlemen off of refuges. And I just like to read where it says, the system is unique among public lands in placing the needs of wildlife paramount above all other considerations. And it goes on later, it says the annual grazing program previously allowed on the refuge, which is in Washington, after completing comprehensive planning process and scientific review, it concluded that domestic cattle were adversely affecting the wildlife and fragile wetlands in streams in the area. So, I mean, there's a lot of smoke there with the cattle and stuff. And I wish you would have shown a lot of those slides at the first meeting. I see that there's a bunch of new slides up there, giving the people that were at the first meeting an opportunity to see some of the stuff that you have there. I think it's not unfair that you do this, that you don't show everybody the same thing. Thank you.
My name is Bishop Wright, and I'm president of the Florida Airboat Association. And I want to thank everyone who attended and all of that. You're going to make a difference. You're not going to make a difference here because this is just part of the system. You're going to have to go to your congressman and write a letter and something we're not good at. But we proved the point. We've made it clear that the local people are not for this. But people in California and all out west are going to be writing. This is going to take every one of y'all to write twice, get your neighbors out west, get everybody else to help us out. We can do it. We proved it. We stacked these houses. We got to go to the next step. Now, talk about a couple things that were very, very, very misleading. Conservation Area 1 is solvent waters. No different than any other conservation area. And I don't need to explain to y'all, we ain't allowed to airboat there. And I can tell you that's the most filthy piece of the conservation areas there is. It's got more exotics than all of the other conservation areas combined. And when it come up for renewal of the lease, it would still be filthy if the airboaters did fight to get back in there and pull their pants down and maybe clean up their act. So we can make things happen. We can get that area back too. We just got to run this refuge business out of business. And we're on the right trail. We got to stick with it. We stick together. People listen to the locals sooner or later because they're out of money. And that's what I want you to focus on most of all when you go to your congressman. They're out of money. Quit wasting money. They can't even run their own farm. And a couple other things. They're going to tell you that they're different than national parks. We get more from the national parks than we get out of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife. Look at it. Look at them up. You'll see that they don't give you any opportunity. So don't be fooled here. And I want to say one other thing that I want to make sure that you make sure that is confirmed to your congressman. They do not buy 1 acre of land in Riverend. Not 1 acre that's owned by the Nature Conservancy because they're the ones that's been buying all that land. They're the ones that's pushing it. Right. So if they're not going to buy an acre of land, not even the Nature Conservancy's land.
Lori Burke, Andrew Nelson, Byron Meharry, Paul Frey, Bill Kelly, Dennis Currick.
My name's Steve. I feel like all like a bunch of time here, so you're telling everybody what they want to hear. There's a lot of stuff that you're not telling us. You're not answering my question.
Amen.
Four of your people out there, I've asked them one question. You ever been up the Kissimmee River, like the Avon Park Almond Lands? No, never been up there. It's always going to come down here and tell us how to run it. Y'all don't have a clue what's up there. You don't know how that river's changing. You need to spend some time up there and see what's going on. I'm dead set with that.
Folks, I'd like you to help me understand something. I don't understand all this negativism against this refuge. This refuge protects wildlife and protects all.
If you ever spent time with your family, you would know.
It's going to be a great thing for this to be protected. Of course, you won't be able to get in there to see it be protected. But it's going to be a great thing for all the people responsible. And I just want you to help me understand. I'd be glad to talk with you after the meeting and help me understand. Fish and Wildlife Service has kicked us out of, which one of the gentlemen here previously mentioned, out of the Loxahatchee down there. You can take all the sun in there, airboat in there, and duck hunt. Can't do it anymore. Can't take a mudboat in there. Take the outboard on a little part of it, duck hunt. That's about it. Fish and Wildlife, U.S. Fish and Wildlife had money involved in the purchase of Picayune Strand down on I-75. You have state forestry, the lead agency there. They force state forestry to kick the buggies and the agencies out. By the way, I'm Myron Aaron, president of the Upper Lakes Coordinating Council, which is a consortium of 18 different conservation organizations.
Where are the rest of your members tonight?
The rest of the members, some of them have already spoken.
Yeah, 2 of them, 3 of them. By a show of hands, at all these meetings I've been to, the democracy would win.
I refuse to get into a battle of wits with someone with
You're speaking for thousands and thousands.
That's unnecessary. That's absolutely unnecessary.
Restart the clock.
Okay, the other thing is the refuge up, there's a little bit of duck hunting permitted on up in the Melbourne area, not much of it. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife is not friendly to the consumptive recreation, folks. And it's got to go deeper than just saying, I'm not going to sell my river range land. That's not going to kill it, because they just step around you and they'll go buy something else close by. And as far as them not taking over other sovereign land, I don't believe it. I think that Charlie doesn't have a disingenuous body and a bone in his body. I'd be happy to have him in the turkey line with me. But he and I have differences of opinion, big time. So what I'm asking you to do, they've got other things on about Fishy Creek that they're going to get into, Loosahatchee River they're going to get into. This is just the first in a series. So folks, you've got to drive a stake through the heart of this thing. And it's got to be done with pressure through the state and through Washington up there. If Panthers are driving this, because your hogs and your deer are part of the Panther parade, they protect all of this and not let us in there to hunt it, the Panthers are going to have plenty to eat. And that's going to drive us right out of our land that historically and culturally we've been able to enjoy. So let's stop.
Karen Raleigh, Jimmy Harris, Brad Harris, Henry Corson, Linda Estes, Dan Basel, Jason Kernicki, Perry Stouter, Melvin Rosen, I think Alan Bourne. Someone with the last name of Bourne? Okay, next speaker.
How y'all doing this evening? My name is Andrew Nelson. I'm a River Ranch property owner. I speak only on my behalf, obviously not for the club, but I put some figures together tonight before I came to this meeting, and I just wanted to make you guys aware of something. Should this happen, I'm sure everybody's aware of Big Cypress and Hollapaw and all those other places that are similar to River Ranch. If you guys go out on the weekends and stuff like that, if you're like me, I came up with, I spend about $800 a month going twice a month. That turns roughly into $2,190, over the course of time. That figure, that's a yearly expense of $2,190. If you times that by 6,000 people strong at River Ranch, that turns into $11,790 a year. If you times that by 6,000 people, you come up with $70,740,000. Times that by 6% sales tax, you get $42,440,000. Now, with that kind of money, I don't see why they couldn't take that money and put it into other conservation projects. Why go and acquire more land? Put it into what you already have. There's no sense in us losing our land over something you guys can't even afford. That's all. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. My name is Paul Gray. I work for Ottawa, Florida. I live in Loretta. I've been in Florida for about 22 years, but I grew up in Missouri and grew up hunting on the Swan Lake National Wildlife Refuge and around Squaw Creek National Wildlife Refuge. That's probably part of the reason why I went into conservation. And I know I wasn't proud of I hunted, but we know that's compatible. Bottom line is very much in favor of this proposal. Those of you like me that airboat on Okeechobee a lot, especially the last 10 or 15 years, the lake almost every year is either way too deep or way too shallow. And when it's too deep, we drown out all the plants and screw up everything for years. When it's too shallow, you can't even load it down the outer edge. Part of the reason it gets like that is because of the drainage upstream above the children. What we need to do is in the summertime, if we can catch some of that water, not have it get in the lake. Well, if we can, yeah, we can catch some of this water and not have it get in the lake, and not get the lake so deep that we don't have to dump it all down the estuaries and direct them. And then when it gets dry, we have water flowing into the lake, so the lake won't go down so much. So this one thing won't cure that, but it gives us a chance to come up here and restore some wetlands and try to get the water, the hydrology of the lake back on a little bit better track. It also has a lot of opportunities for ranches. I did my graduate work down here on ducks on the Florida Mallard, and these ranches have a lot of wildlife and habitat value. And a lot of these ranchers, there's a saying that if a cattleman or a farmer only gets one real paycheck in his life, and that's when he sells his property. Well, this is a chance for these guys to sell some development rights on their property, to keep their property, keep farming, keep it in food and fiber production, be able to hunt on it, be able to do all this stuff. So there's real opportunities for a lot of these ranchers that don't want to have their property as featured and end up with root problems on it. And for boaters, I mean, guys, this river restoration is a park federal project. It got us about 50,000 acres of river building built along, well, restored river when it's all done, and then the upper chain of lakes will be just the headwaters. So give us a chance. There's opportunities here for us to expand our recreational activities, conservation, water management. There's a lot of good things we can really support. Thank you.
Next speaker.
Be the louder. Southport Water Management is the one that gets the lake up and down every year. They're the ones that started that caused the last two droughts we had. If you want to end this, shoot all the damn panthers, shoot all the bears, and then they don't have nothing to protect. They're putting them above you. You know, we all believe in conservation, but if they would put them above you and take your land, kill them all. There's nothing to protect, and this is all up to them.
David Rosa, Timothy Cox, Brent Bowman, Gregory Gish.
What they're not telling you is they're going to be taking Okeechobee, the lake, all the way down to the Everglades next. Connect the dots. Okay? It's going to keep you out of that too. They don't want you to live good. They don't want you to have a good life. Everybody that works for the government is a piece of shit.
And I have property up in Holocaust. And if there's people that are around me that are stupid enough to sell, and I want access to my private land, my F5 management area stands to access it. The answer is no. I'll be able to hunt my own land in the surroundings without any issues.
You will have full access to your land.
Can you hunt?
Yep.
Can you hunt?
There are many areas that people have access to ATVs and off-road vehicles. Those areas keep shrinking and shrinking. We have access to River Ranch and the Holocaust. With this proposal, a lot of these areas are going to be reduced because you did say that ATV and off-road vehicles will be stopped. Now, we'll have the areas short that we can't go into. This is also going to affect the businesses. You have your ATV dealerships and repair shops. You have your off-road vehicle repair shops and your fabricators. The income that these people put into surrounding communities, what's going to happen to replace that income?
This is the earlier session we had here. I spoke directly to the folks at River Ranch, and I made a blanket statement, and I'll make it again here for you folks. There's the two components that we're talking about: the fee title land acquisition and the conservation easements. Fee title would be the areas where we would go on and acquire the land and have full ownership and management rights. The conservation easement lands, the landowner would maintain
the rights of ATV or using things like that. It's just development rights that we'd be interested in. The property at River Ranch, we're not talking about fee title acquisition. The only thing that we would be interested in there at the River Ranch properties would be, if there's willing sellers, would be conservation easement program, whereby you'd still be able to maintain your access, your ATVs, and so there would be no impact for those.
All right, next speaker.
On your first club or organization.
You will be able to go like
You've given pretty much the answer that I needed on that. But a lot of statements you made regarding Congress, the United States Congress sent a letter to Mr. Salazar wanting to know why out west you took away the grazing rights and the life of the people out there. Why the businesses that thrive on parks and refuges, you shut them down and took away their livelihood. And they're doing basically a cease and desist because you're not running any of this through the United States Congress like you've been instructed to do and like the United States Constitution demands you to do. And if this is another attempt at doing similar things, nobody should be for it. And I encourage everybody to contact your congressman. I encourage you to go online and read this, because this is what will happen. Any landowner considering grazing rights, you better read it, and you better read your contract. Because if you don't, you're going to get screwed. They're going to come in, cattle are crapping on the property, it's going in the water, it's biologically a hazard. We shut you down. Then you own the property, you can't make any money on it. What are you going to do? Hand it down to your next generation for what? Exactly. It's been managed. Everybody talks about how great these ranches are out here and how we manage. I know. I own some of the land and I lease a lot of land out here. And our property's managed well. I manage my property well. I got panthers on it. I got bears on it. I've got everything else on it. We hunt. We do everything else on it. I don't need any help. I know how to fill my feeders. I know how to do my food plots. I know how to burn my property.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Colgan, and I'm a sixth-generation rancher just north of town. Boom. I have several comments that I need to make tonight. But the first one is, as he mentioned before, the farmers were the first conservationists. My family has ranched the same land for 150 years, and I think that we did a very good job conserving it. Water management came in, bought property, did the public hunting and fishing, and now there's no deer, no hogs, and there's hunters on our side of the fence. So that's a very big concern for any of these landowners that aren't willing. They're going to be bordering against it. Because water management or whatever Florida Fish and Game doesn't have the staff to monitor what's coming in, what's going out. Another thing is everyone keeps talking about the cohesiveness of this and ranching. But really, the number one reason that ranchers give up their property or have to sell is because there's a death in the family and inheritance tax splits it. If you really wanted to figure out a way to keep conservation land ranching and ranchers out here making a livelihood, figure out a way to lower or get rid of the estate tax. The farmers and ranchers that are here, especially in Okeechobee and my families like this, they make their money off of this. When you start kind of putting in these government regulations, you run them out of business. By running them out of business, you lower the food supply. And that's something that, as you said, the population is going to keep doubling. A very important concern in America is that we need to keep an independent food supply. And part of that is supporting our farmers and ranchers. And I feel like Florida is one of the worst states for that. So those are just some things that probably need to be written into your plan or considered by even Ken Salazar in Congress about food and the importance of it.
Goodbye.
My name is Brent Bowman. I own property both at River Ranch and I'm at the Senior River down in the Baton area. If anybody's spending time in that area, the river reorganization of the river correction program is a good program. I think it's putting the river back to its natural state. There's been a lot of ranches and property owners that have gone along with that to get back to a natural state until they try to make a conservation area that kicks us off our own property. I think it showed everybody over the last 2 to 3 years that they don't do what they say initially with their initial projections. And at this point, you can't trust a word that they're saying. It's a beautiful river system right now. It goes back to its natural flow. It's going to make its own natural, nature sanctuary for that matter, without any help from the government, without buying anybody else's property. I think absolutely everybody should be against this because all they're doing is buying our own rights to our own property.
Thank you. I'm Craig Gish. I'm a landowner in the affected area, proposed area. I'd like to remind you that it's a proposed area. This is a proposal by the federal government. This is not written in stone. Everyone who works, as I had, for the federal government, the past 31 years, is reminded to work for the taxpayers. Ladies and gentlemen, the only way that this is going to be defeated is through your congressional representatives. That's the only way. Us in here, we can jump up and down all we want, but until we get congressional action, and your congressmen in the affected areas, your congressmen, your congresswomen, your senators, and the governor, is there anybody, has anybody been invited here in the affected areas? The representatives, were they invited to these public meetings? Okay? I don't think so. You know why? I contacted Dennis Ross's office. There was no invite to Dennis Ross's office for either him or any one of his staffers to attend one of these meetings. He's a representative for our district. It's absolutely BS. Okay? You have a responsibility to the taxpayers, to the people who own the property out there who are affected, to take their representatives' comments into consideration. And I guarantee you will do so.
I appreciate you all hanging in here with us. If you have additional comments, I will reiterate again, you can write them down and leave them in the box. You can come to the meeting tomorrow night. You can email them to us. You can call us. You can fax them. You can mail them. But I really appreciate all of you hanging in with us and seeing the presentation and giving us your comments. And if you have any questions, please let us know. There is a computer out front, or if you have additional comments you'd like to submit, we have a few more minutes. I'm going to turn it over to Charlie to wrap it up, but I want to say thank you so much for today.
I'd like to reiterate that, and thank you all for spending your time with us this evening. Your comments are well received, and we'll be considering them when we develop our proposal. We'll be back in June to show you what we've come up with.